I received a call from Emily on a Wednesday afternoon. Her voice was calm, steady, each word deliberate, leaving no room for misinterpretation. I need a break to figure myself out. No contact. The statement was absolute. No apologies, no elaboration, no time frame. Just a single sentence, simple and clean, yet capable of creating a void in my life. I placed my phone aside. No response. Calm/observation is the only effective choice in this scenario. I've learned that reacting impulsively only complicates things, especially when the other person has already made such a definitive decision. That evening, I walked around the empty apartment, noting every detail. The kitchen table with a few leftover cups, the faint yellow glow from the ceiling light, the distant hum of traffic outside. Everything seemed normal, but I wasn't. The emptiness she left wasn't just silence. It was an unsolved variable, a puzzle I had to observe to understand. 2 days passed. No messages, no calls. I maintained my routine. Work, emails, gym. But my mind continuously analyzed. Did she truly want a break? Or was this a strategic pause to see my reaction? Human behavior often reveals more than words, and careful observation is key. Then, on day 3, a new variable appeared, an Instagram notification. Emily was tagged in a post, and in the comments, her mother tagged me directly. The post showed her smiling brightly with friends at a cafe I had never been to. Caption: helping Emily find herself. Sometimes distance is the best medicine. I read it repeatedly. Everything was intentional. Her mother had intervened in a public but subtle way, signaling 2 things. 1, Emily's space was sanctioned, and 2, social pressure was being applied indirectly. I didn't react immediately. I sat down and analyzed every element: the timing of the post, word choice, lighting in the photo, presence of her friends. Every detail could provide clues about Emily's true emotional state and intentions. This wasn't about jealousy or anger. It was strategic observation. That night, Emily sent a message. I didn't know my mum would do that. I just needed time to think. I acknowledged it, neutrally, understood. Reach out when ready. Short, neutral, no emotion. Any excessive emotional reaction would only cloud judgment. The following days, I tracked every movement. Her online presence, social interactions with friends, comments from her mother. Every action was data. Every word, a clue. I realized this wasn't just a girl needing space. It was a complex network of interacting factors, where her silence and distance were tools, and I needed to respond appropriately without overstepping. On day 5, I decided to initiate subtly but without intrusion. I sent a calculated message. I have observed and understand what is happening. Distance is necessary, but I am available when you decide to communicate. Emily didn't respond immediately. I assumed she was processing her mother's influence and social context. Over the years, I learned to read these signals. Delays don't indicate indifference. They indicate strategic analysis by the other party. I went to the gym, focusing on each movement, each breath. Returning home, I worked on unfinished projects. Maintaining normalcy was crucial. Relationship stress should not dominate all aspects of life. On day 7, Emily appeared in a group video call with friends. She smiled, spoke casually, yet her gaze occasionally drifted to her phone, likely observing my reaction. I noted it, but didn't act. The strategy: calm, observation, and patient waiting. 1 week later, she finally messaged, "I'm sorry. I didn't handle this well. My mum complicated things." I read it, analyzing tone, word choice, subtle structural shifts, remorse, yet still distant. I replied neutrally, "Understood. We will talk when you are ready." That was all. No emotion, no justification. Simply observing and preparing for the next move. Emily's distance was not a beginning or an end. It was a variable in the equation I needed to solve. In the following week, I continued observation, noting every detail, how she reacted with friends, comments from her mother, images she posted online, even her choice of words in messages. Every piece of information had value. The goal wasn't control, but understanding and predicting the next step. When relationships become tense, most react emotionally. I chose a different approach. Maintain distance, observe, collect data, and wait for the optimal moment to act. This wasn't coldness. It was deliberate calculation. The only way to handle a complex relationship while retaining control. After the first week of silence and observation, I started to see the bigger picture more clearly. Emily wasn't just taking a break. She was weighing everything. Her mother, her friends, and even how I might react. Every action, no matter how small, carried information. Monday morning, at the office, my phone buzzed. A message from Emily. "I'm still trying to sort things out." Short, precise. No explanation. But the word "trying" was a signal. It indicated awareness, but not full commitment. I didn't reply immediately. Silence at this stage wasn't indifference. It was strategic observation, letting her make her next move without interference. All day, I focused on work. But in my head, I analyzed every detail. Her mother had intervened publicly on social media. Emily hadn't clarified or apologized. That suggested she maintained distance while keeping control over her narrative. This wasn't just a personal issue anymore. It had expanded into her environment, influencing the situation indirectly by evening. I decided to assess external factors. I tracked posts, comments, and interactions with friends. Every small detail was data. I documented everything: the way she smiled in photos, the time she posted, the words she chose in captions. Each detail could reveal her current emotional state and intentions. During observation, one detail stood out. Emily kept posting at her usual times, even during no contact. That could be interpreted in two ways: either maintaining routine for emotional stability or subtly signaling that she was fine and hadn't completely disconnected from the relationship. This was a variable I needed to account for. On day 3, a new variable appeared, a slightly longer message from Emily, likely intended for me to notice. "I ran into an old friend today, and we talked a lot. It made me realize a few things about myself." This wasn't just information. It was a signal to gauge my reaction. I analyzed every word. Old friend, talked a lot, realize a few things. Her goal was to see how I would respond. I didn't respond immediately. That's part of the observation strategy. No emotional reaction, only data collection. That evening, I sent a calculated, neutral response. "Understood. Thanks for the update." No pressure, but it confirmed that I was monitoring the situation. The strategy was clear: remain calm, maintain control, and avoid being manipulated by subtle signals. Over the next few days, I noticed another pattern. Emily interacted more with friends online, but avoided direct contact with me. Her behavior indicated a deliberate attempt to distance herself emotionally while still monitoring the relationship indirectly. I kept documenting everything. Online activity times, post types, choice of words, reactions with friends. Even the way she smiled in stories. Every piece of data could help me predict her next move, and I would leverage it when deciding my response. On day 7, she posted a neutral photo with the caption, "Just a normal day," trying to keep everything balanced. No direct mention of me, but the message was clear. She maintained distance while signaling that she was managing her life. I analyzed immediately. Normal. Balanced gives indicated high self-awareness and careful control over her emotions and the relationship. This was critical intelligence for my strategy. That evening, I sent another neutral, measured message. Noted, "I see you're trying to manage things. Let me know when you're ready." It was neutral, yet assertive. I was observing without being controlled, and I reminded her subtly that I maintained my own position. In the following days, my approach remained the same. Strategic distance, careful observation, data collection, never letting emotion dictate actions. I realized that in complex relationships, remaining composed and calculating is often the only way to retain leverage. A week later, the dynamics started to shift. No drama, no shouting, just subtle, almost imperceptible movements. But I noticed immediately. Emily began texting more frequently. Short messages, low on emotion, but consistent in timing. "I'm okay, busy today, but thinking of you. Are you doing all right?" None of these were substantial, yet they carried a clear intent. She was checking to see if I was still present. I read them, but didn't respond right away. I marked them as seen, not cold, but not engaged either. Someone who used to love you now acting like a psychological experiment subject. I realized Emily had lost control of the pace. In this silent game, the person who stays calm dictates the terms. She thought she was testing me, but her subtle urgency became the most revealing data. On Friday, she sent an unexpected message. "Do you remember the first time we met at that gallery?" A nostalgic question, not for conversation, but to open the door to memories. I recognized the tactic. When present emotions feel unstable, people often retreat to memories for reassurance and attempt to pull others back to familiar emotional ground. I didn't respond. I wanted to see what she would do when the nostalgia went unanswered. 3 hours later, she messaged again. "I was just reminiscing. I don't expect anything." I could almost picture her face tense, trying to stay composed, waiting for a signal. I remained silent. That evening, I sat in a small cafe, laptop open in front of me. My screen displayed a stream of notes, not obsession, but structured behavioral analysis. Emily tended to avoid conflict, yet feared abandonment. She needed to control others' emotions to feel secure. Now, as I withdrew my control, she started to waver the next morning. I received a longer message, first time in 2 weeks. "I think I was wrong to ask for space. I thought I needed it to think, but really I just wanted to make sure you were still there. I don't know what's happening with me. Everything feels blurred. My mom told me to take a break, but I feel like I'm losing something." I read it carefully. Didn't reply immediately. I set the phone down, made a cup of coffee, and read it 2 more times. This was a critical moment. Someone who realizes they are losing control is most susceptible to influence. But I didn't want to exploit it. I only wanted to see if she was truly ready to face her feelings. 3 hours later, I replied with one line: "I'm still here. But I don't want to be the person you reach out to just because you're afraid of being alone." No blame, no romance, no emotion, just a clear boundary. She didn't respond immediately. The next day, I noticed her mother post a strange status on Facebook. When someone stops responding to your daughter, maybe they never truly loved her. I chuckled softly, not mockingly, but appreciating the entire power dynamic behind the story. From the start, Emily wasn't only wrestling with her feelings, she was dealing with her mother's influence, a figure who equates control with love. Meanwhile, I just observed. That evening, Emily finally texted, "Are you mad at me?" I responded, "No, but I think you need to be honest with yourself." 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Then she replied, "I'm afraid of losing you." It was the first time she had been completely honest since the break, and the first time I saw her without strategy, just a vulnerable, conflicted human. I didn't comfort, didn't argue. I simply replied, "I understand." Sometimes silence carries more weight than any promise. That evening, I reopened my notes. I deleted everything. No more tracking. No more data. The observation game had run its course, and for the first time, I felt neither victory nor loss. I only saw the essence of a person. When love is pushed into strategy, it eventually strips itself down to raw truth. After the temporary pause in the observation game, with no promises and no conclusions, only silence remained between Emily and me. But silence here was not peace. It was a layer of subtle testing that I needed to decode. One Monday afternoon, Emily texted, "Are you free? Just want to talk for a bit." Short, simple, but loaded with meaning. "Just want to talk for a bit" was not a casual invitation. It was a boundary testing signal, trying to see if I still cared while keeping control. I read the message, analyzing every word. I didn't reply immediately. Responding too quickly would compromise my observational advantage. I waited about 20 minutes before texting back, "I'm free. But let's keep it direct, no beating around the bush." No emotion, no reconciliation. It established boundaries while signaling that I was in control. The call started. Emily's voice was slightly tense, but controlled. She talked about work, trivial details of her day, but every sentence had hidden layers, testing reactions, probing attitudes, looking for signals from me. I listened without interrupting, not because I lacked response, but because I was reading behavior, analyzing breathing, tone, word choice. Every detail was data. I realized she wasn't ready to open up fully, but was slowly adjusting the distance between us. After 15 minutes, she paused and said, "Do you think taking a week off from contact was too much?" Her question was both a test and an opportunity for me to set boundaries. I answered calmly, "Distance is necessary, but it's only useful when both parties understand the purpose." She went silent. I knew she was processing my words, comparing her feelings to the reality I just presented. That silence carried a stronger message than any statement could. A few days later, I noticed Emily sending short messages at unusual times. A photo of a coffee cup, a quote, a meme she liked. Each small gesture was intentional. This wasn't random communication. It was a test of attention and patience. I didn't respond immediately. I analyzed every detail: timing, content, word choice. I took notes and inferred the intent behind each signal. This was strategic methodology, ensuring my actions retained observational value rather than reacting emotionally. Another variable appeared. Her mother messaged me privately on Messenger. "She's just testing you. If you really care, show her patience and stability." I read it and smiled slightly. Her mother was trying to manipulate the situation, but she overlooked one thing: I don't act according to anyone else's expectations. I analyzed the situation, assessed the message, but didn't let it influence my actions. I maintained control. By the weekend, Emily texted, "Do you want to meet?" "Just coffee, nothing serious." Another signal: she wanted to test limits, to see if I could stay composed in a face-to-face interaction. I replied, "Okay." The usual cafe at 5. The meeting that afternoon was the first in 2 weeks. Everything was subtle. Emily tried to control the atmosphere, but I was actively observing. I noticed every detail: her gaze, how she placed her hands on the table, her breathing, intentional pauses. Everything was data. After over an hour, we left the cafe. No conflict, no argument. Just a boundary test completed, and I knew Emily was starting to adjust her distance according to my control, not entirely on her own terms anymore. A week after our cafe meeting, everything seemed calm. Then my phone buzzed. Emily texted, "Are you free?" "I want to meet," I replied. "Yeah, sure. Same place." That evening, sitting across from her, I could see she was nervous. She avoided eye contact, fiddled with her coffee cup, and sighed. I don't even know where to start." "Just start anywhere. No need to worry about the rest. I'm afraid of losing you, but I'm also afraid of being controlled." I stayed quiet for a moment, just watching her expression and tone. She wasn't hiding anything anymore. "I feel completely tangled up. Part of me wants to talk to you, part wants to run away." I smiled softly. "You don't need to run. I just need you to be honest." She exhaled and began telling me about the past 2 weeks. Every day, every text, every silent moment had made her question, "Am I still there?" She couldn't hide her fear, but she also didn't want to lose her independence. "I don't even know what this feeling is anymore. Afraid of losing you, afraid of hurting you, afraid of myself." "It's okay. Just say everything." We talked for over an hour. I didn't interrupt, only asked clarifying questions now and then. The more she spoke, the more I could tell she was really opening up. She was shy, hesitant, but every word was sincere. I made no promises, I just listened. When the evening grew late, Emily looked at me, her eyes wet. "Thank you for letting me choose. I've always let you choose." In that moment, I realized control wasn't about forcing anything. It was about staying calm so both of us could see our true feelings. No promises, no drama, just honesty between two people. We left in silence, but the distance that had existed before was gone. The tension had eased. This was a turning point. Emily had opened up, but everything remained within controlled boundaries, and I knew the balance of mental control had shifted in my favor. A week after our cafe meeting, I thought things had settled. Then that night, Emily texted me, "What are you doing?" "Nothing, just reading." I need to see you. I can't hold it in anymore." I could feel the urgency in her message. It wasn't just a casual desire to meet it. Was an emotional storm building up? I replied, okay, how about 30 minutes at the usual cafe? When she arrived, her eyes were red, her hair messy. I knew immediately this wasn't going to be a normal conversation. She sat down, hugging her coffee cup tightly. I don't even know what to say first. Just start. Say whatever comes to mind. Emily looked at me, choked up, and began. I can't handle this anymore. The past 2 weeks, I kept wondering if you were still there. I feel scared. Scared of losing you, but also scared of disappointing you. I just listened. No interruptions, no reassurances. She needed to spill her emotions, not to provoke a reaction. I feel like I'm fighting with myself. Part of me wants to be with you. Part of me wants to run away. I smiled softly. You don't need to run. I just need you to be honest. A moment of silence. Then she lowered her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. I don't want to hurt you. I really fear losing you. I said gently, you can't hold it in if you want to move forward. Just say everything you feel. She told me everything. Her fears, her guilt, the days she sat by her phone, too afraid to text. Every word, every tone revealed the conflict inside her. Wanting closeness, but fearing constraint. Wanting love, but fearing pain. I stayed calm, only responding when necessary. All I want is clarity. No pressure, no hiding. Emily took a deep breath, finally looking me straight in the eyes for the first time. Do you know, I truly love you. I'm scared. I might lose you. The question didn't need an explanation. I answered softly, I know. You don't need to say more. In that moment, it felt like time stopped. We just looked at each other in silence, full of meaning. Not romantic, not dramatic, just raw honesty between two people. She placed her hand on the table, trembling slightly. I've never felt so exhausted and confused in my life. That's love, Emily. It's messy, but it's real. We stayed a little longer, speaking in short sentences, exchanging small words and smiles. Every glance a mutual acknowledgement of two hearts trying to connect. As we left the cafe, Emily whispered, "Thank you for letting me choose. I'll always let you choose." That night, I went home alone, thinking it over. Control wasn't strategy anymore. It was patience, listening, and staying calm. Letting Emily open up in her own way. Part 6 ends on a climactic emotional note. Emily fully opened up, revealing her fear, love, and confusion. Yet my mental control remained intact, not imposed, but maintaining balance so both of us could face the truth and our feelings. After that night when she opened up, nothing suddenly became easy. But one thing was clear. Emily had let her guard down, and I felt calmer than ever. In the following days, we stayed in touch, but the cold distance from before was gone. One Wednesday afternoon, Emily texted, "Are you free?" "I want to go for a walk," I replied. "Yeah, let's go." We met at the park near my place. The late afternoon sun cast a soft glow, a gentle breeze blowing. Emily walked beside me, a little hesitant, but no longer shrinking away like before. "You know, I've thought a lot. These past 2 weeks, I felt weak, scared. But I realized what really matters." "What's that?" "You and myself. I don't want to live in fear anymore." I looked at her, saying nothing, letting her speak. She continued, "I want to love you, but I also want to feel free to be myself. Can you accept that? I smiled lightly. I'll always accept you. As long as you're honest with yourself, everything else will fall into place. We walked and talked about small things: work, friends, new movies. But between the ordinary chatter, I realized that true closeness had returned. Not control, not strategy, just genuine connection. Another evening, Emily invited me to her place. We sat on the couch, soft light, quiet space. She reached out and held my hand. You know, I used to think I'd lose you if I showed weakness. But now I understand. You're not going anywhere. I'll always be here, but you also have to stay with yourself in that moment. All the silence, the distance, the tests, they didn't matter anymore. We just sat there, hands intertwined, listening to each other. I realized that true love isn't about control or strategy. It's about staying calm and letting the other choose, letting them be themselves. In the days that followed, Emily stopped sending testing or probing messages. She shared her feelings, her worries, and the little joys of life. We laughed together, sometimes disagreed, but always respected each other's emotions. One night, as we looked out over the city from her balcony, Emily said, "You know, I feel peaceful with you. No pressure, no pretending. That's what real love is." We stayed silent for a while, just soaking in the moment. I knew the journey wasn't over, there would still be challenges. But now both of us could see our true feelings and our choices clearly. This conclusion isn't a perfect ending, but it's about truth and choice. Emily chose to open up. I chose to remain calm. And together we chose to love in the most genuine way possible. No drama, no strategic moves, just love and mutual respect.